Hello, my name is Horion Gracie. With the increased popularity of our self-defense system, the time has come for us to introduce the first series on the basics of Gracie Jiu Jitsu. I feel confident that the simple techniques that you will learn on these videos will increase your effectiveness on self-defense. In this first segment, we'll see how to close the distance between you and your opponent. Several ways to do that, and I'm going to use my brother Royce so we can exemplify that. Assuming that your opponent is standing like this, what you want to do is that you want to use the kick. First of all, you want to use the kick so that you can close the distance and then come in like that. Once again, please. So the hand goes 1, 2, 3. That's the idea. The kick, it's a safe way to bring you close to him, because if he wants to use a kick from him or whatever, you just can cover that distance and then you come in with this to get to this point. Another thing is if he throws a punch with this hand, you can deflect the hand and come in close. This hand of mine will deflect his hand, and then I come in from underneath like that. If he throws a punch with that hand, you can go under and block him by the waist. And go under here. Mainly, you want to make sure that you keep your hands fairly protecting your face, because as you come close, even if the aggressor would throw a punch and kind of nick you over the head, something like this, it doesn't really matter. What you want is be close to him. Then you can work your way around to either trap the arm or continue from here in a different manner. If, for example, if you just would keep your hands in front of your face, throw a kick and come in, this is not going to be very harmful because there's not much space for him to hit you with this. The idea is to eventually get to a hug position. One more time. 1, 2. Even when boxers, in the middle of the fight, they find themselves in a situation of being in trouble, the main idea is to go for the clean. That's what they're going to go for. They feel safe here. That's why the referee has to come in and break the hold. Because from this point, it's going to be very difficult for another person to hit you from here, even if he's got the space. It's hard to do much. So that's what you want. Get him in a hug tight. So kick, protect your face, and get close. Throws the punch with his hand. 1, 2. A different way to do it. Throws with that hand, we can go under and block the waist. It doesn't really matter how, but we want to get close to him. The hand should be able to protect your face from a fatal, or shall I say, a precise shot. That's what you want to avoid. 1, 2, 3. That's the idea. A lot of people don't feel comfortable in closing that distance because they don't know what to do from that point on. We will now address some ways to take the opponent down once you get to the clinch. 1, 2. Once you get to this position here, my hand will trap his arm. I'm holding by the elbow because he could be without a shirt, so it gives me a better grip if I grab by the bone here on the elbow. The second hand is on the waist. My feet are planted in base like this. His leg is right inside of my leg. He can't kick me on the groin because I'm too close to him. And from this position, my back leg is going to step through in front of him. My hip will step across, and as I put my head down, I'll flip the opponent this way. Once again, please. So when the person throws a punch and you got to this position here, remember this hand holds him from running away from you at this point. You want to stay close enough that he can't hit you with the groin, or with the knee on the groin. My head is tucked in so he doesn't hit me with the headbutt. From this position, the back leg is going to go around him. What makes the movement easy is that you make sure that this hand is not holding too tight, because if it's very tight, it's going to get in your way. You won't be able to go around him. So at this point, this hand loosens up the grip so that your hip can come in and goes, I'm very relaxed, in front of him here. It's not to muscle with the arm strength at this point, but instead your head goes down to your knee. My position is very relaxed. And from here he goes down this way. So it's 1, 2, trap the arm. Make sure that you trap the arm here, over his arm. Second hand, behind his waist. Head stuck down, leg goes in the front. The hip Very relaxed, goes in front of him. Some people have a tendency to step out, and that throws me off balance. You don't have to put your foot outside of his leg. You can just put your foot right here, so both feet will be lined up with his foot like a square. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right there. From here, you bring your hip in, and my hip is what's going to lift him up as I straighten my legs up. There's no arm strength on the movement. 1, I'm relaxed. Oh, as I put my head down, and fly over. All right. Okay. Another way to take the opponent down when you go for something like this is that you're going to find yourself behind him. From here, because I'm holding him by the waist, it's going to be hard for me to step in front of him at this point. So what I want to do here is that I'm going to brace his foot and sit back with him, end up on top of him at this point. So it's 1, 2. Hold my wrist. So now I'm going to stay close to him here. From here, he's got his center of gravity very low. I'm going to block his leg, sit back, and go with the flow at this point. Let's make sure that we notice that when I sit back, you don't want to land on your elbow. You want to roll over. So it's a kind of a very smooth motion. Or natural, fold it, bring you here, and put your hands on the ground. Please watch once again. 1, 2, he's going to struggle at this point. My leg goes behind him and I sit back so that I can end up here, my hands on the ground, and I'm on top of him now. Once again, please. 1, 2. 1. And I'm on top of him. If I do this and I get close to the guy, he's struggling and ends up facing me like this, you could also, just by holding your wrist, bend him back and then go on top of the opponent like this. The idea of the clinch is to get close to him and take him to the ground. Once he gets to the ground, he's out of his environment. He's no longer having a chance to punch and kick at you. So that's where his danger is at this distance, for the punch, for the kick. The moment that you get close to him now, he doesn't have the weight, he doesn't have the distance to be hitting anymore. He's too close. Now they struggle, everything else happened, but he doesn't have the powerful speed. He can't hit with the knee, I'm too close. Headbutt, I'm safe. The punch with his hand is too close. Hold here and you can bend him back, as I said. It doesn't matter how he's going down. That's what we're going to. Whenever you throw the opponent on the ground, the purpose is to try to end up mounted on him. So 1, 2, from here he's resisting. Down they go. In base, to establish a position on top. 1, 2, he's resisting. We could stay here, or we could go to the mounted position, which should be your objective in a fight. Assuming that the opponent is heavier and stronger than you are, you don't want to keep the distance of a punching and kicking with him, because if he's more powerful, he could punch and kick harder at you. That's why we feel it's so important that you're able to close that distance effectively, so that you don't give him a chance. He weighs 320 pounds, 6'8". If I'm trying to punch him, he might have a chance, one good punch and knock me out. So that's why I don't want to stay at this distance with him. The safer for me is to stay close to the guy any way I can. Now, even if you hit off my back, it's a different thing. That's where we're going. We're going to take him to the ground and stay with him. So it's important that you feel that you must close that distance. As I said earlier, A lot of people don't feel like closing that distance because they don't know what to do once they get close to a much bigger and much more powerful opponent. But we're going to be seeing that soon enough. For now, I just want to emphasize that grabbing aspect of it, which is this closing of the distance. You are far away, so he can't touch you from this point. His hand can't reach me, and his foot can't touch me. Knowing that, he knows he has to get closer. That's when I come in with my move and grab him here. So the whole thing is I'm playing with the distance at this point. The hands can catch me, but that's what you want. As I said, there are several different ways to close that distance, and this is just a basic ways to do that. And more importantly is that you have to feel comfortable enough with the idea of going in for the clinch and just feeling confident on the idea. Even if you just do something like this, like the boxers, they don't kick or punch back, they don't kick back. But if you're just like this and the guy throws a punch, now from here I can get close and then wrap the arm. Capitalize on the distance factor, that you stay close, he can't do much from here. 1, 2, or 1, 2. How about right here? Do you get in here? So once you get close, you can take him down this way and then mount. That's one move. You can take him down this way and then end up mounted. That's how you do it. You could just simply bend him back like this and then end up mounted on top of him, establishing your mounted position, which is this one here. Or if he's pulling away from you, that I feel that I can't step in front because I would lose my balance. If your opponent at this point is dragging me that way, if I step here, he'll throw me off balance and I'll lose my movement. So, when I feel him pulling back, my back leg, down, and then I'll be mounted again. So from here, I go for the kick, block. If he's resisting that way, the back leg will hook his leg, put him on the ground, and then go to the mounted position. Once again, please, guys. I want to tilt this way a little tiny bit. Notice that the back leg here, when I hook his leg, I put my foot back on the ground because I don't want to hook his leg and land on my knee on the ground. So it's one. I'm 100% in base here. Then I place my knee over. We don't want to hook the leg and land on the knee, because if you're doing it on cement, you could hurt yourself. So you have him trapped, you hook the leg, no good, dangerous. Let go of his leg, step over, and then mount. Once again, please. 1, 2. He's resisting, pulling back. I hook the leg, put my foot on the ground. I'm actually holding him if I want. I have that much base. And then go over for the mounted position. That's the objective in every situation of fight. You always want to end up in the mounted position. We will now review the same techniques that we just saw from a different angle so that you can have a more complete idea of what to do as we get to the clinch. So Royce will stand on this side, please. Okay, so when we're here, 1, 2, 3. Remember that the hand should be loose. So as you step through, you have the mobility for the hip to come in. If you hold very tight with this hand, it's going to make it difficult for your leg to go between you and your opponent. Loosen up the grip, the hand goes in, and then the hand now will readjust them and close to you. So when you put your head down, you have absolute control on him. And go to the mounted afterwards. So the kick to make him flinch. 1, 2, 3. Gotta hold it down. Step through. The hip comes in. Relax. As my head goes down, flies over. Always go to the mounted position. Get used to this. You want to feel comfortable with the idea of being close to your opponent. Another takedown is when he throws a punch with this hand, you deflect the hand and get close to him here. He might struggle at this point to just establish a base, and then when you brace his foot and sit back, that's what you're going to. And again, spread your hands to end up in a mounted position. Please observe that in this position here, when you brace the person's foot, you don't want to pull him over your chest on top of you. That's not the idea. The idea is to bring him next to you, folding your arm under. That's what you want. So I'm not going to bring Royce to land on top of me. I'm going to pull him next to me. So it's this way, get close to this, base, around me, and I'm on the ground here. Then brace myself and end up on the mounted position once again. One, two. That's what I want. So a little bit base. That's the move. End up on the top position again. You can also go for the clinch here. And as the person straightens up the body, you hold your wrist and bend him back so that you can end up on top mounted. Be sure to let go of your hand behind his back so that you can protect your face as you go to the ground. Because if you keep holding the grip, you might end up hitting your head on the ground. Again, ending always on the mounted position. One, two, 16. You can bend him back simply by folding him back by the waist, or you could hook the leg also if you want. And base stand up mounted on your opponent like this. Now the kick, the idea is to aim at the opponent's leg, right by knee height. If he moves back, your kick is going to be used as a step so that you can use that to close the distance. If he stays here, you're going to hurt him on the knee. So I'm doing this, two, and then holding the waist. Gotta take him back this way. If he's moving back away from me, I might bring my hands underneath him and still bend him back with the leg, and again end up on the top mounted position. One, two. If he's walking back, my leg will fish his leg with this, hook, and mount it again. If I'm trying to go for this hip movement, and as I go for the hip, the man starts to walk away, I regain my position, establish my position, and try something else. So a quick recap on the whole sequence here. One, two. You can be over the arm or under the arm. One, two, three. The hip, head down, that's one way. Throws a punch with this hand, deflect the hand, come in here. My leg goes behind. And then mount it and then on top of the hand here. He throws a punch with that hand, You can go under, hold him by the waist. From here, you can do this. Back, and end up on top of him again. Mounted position. Get to this position here. You can either just bend him back and end up on top of him. If he turns around, finds himself in this position, 1, 2, 3, over here. End up with the guy in this position. Okay, now we're going to see a sequence of these techniques that we just saw at pretty much full speed, so that you can have an idea of the different options that you have to use the techniques that we have just, explained to you. We have taken the opponent to the ground. Now we want to find, good ways, effective ways to keep him down here. If you just stay like this on top of him, he could grab you by the chest like this and simply throw you out of here if I stay stiff as a board. So what you want is be able to, number one, relax so that you can avoid that. In other words, you don't want to give him a chance that there's no resistance. I don't want to be stiff that he can push me out. Instead, I'm going to relax my body and my arms are going to drive through inside of his arm. So he doesn't have a chance to develop the power of his move. I'm always going to be deflecting that. So he tries to push me out. I want to bring my hand through as if I'm swimming inside of his arm. This is the kind of motion you want. Like this. Always keep one hand on the ground. So as you're doing this, you have the base and the balance of using the ground in your advantage. That's the move you want. So as a drill, you can go from here and just do this kind of movement. Just do this. That's what you want. Okay. If he tries to push you on your stomach here, you can stand up almost straight and then deflect the person's arm like this. It also works. You can use the palm of your hand, or you can use the forearm to deflect his hand from pushing you back. This way. That's what you want. Okay? This way or this way. If he tries to work on your knee by pushing your knee down with his hand, without using the thumb, you reach for his wrist and just deflect or disarm the hand from pushing your knee away. That's the move you want. Other side, just bring the hand up. So that before he starts pushing, your hand is already anticipating that and disarming his hand or the elbow from being able to push your leg away. All I'm doing here is maintaining my position so that he doesn't have a chance to use his force to dislodge me from this position. That's what I want. Sometimes when the person is pushing you back, you could also come down and hold him by the neck like this and use this hand for base. My legs are going to be spreading out like this, and sometimes even hooking the leg on the back of his legs like that so that my feet can be holding on to this. Always relax. The idea is to get relaxed as you do the motion so that you can stay here without spending too much energy. If he decides to sit up and push me back, you don't want to get stiff and be thrown off balance. You want to disarm the arm and pull him back again. By leaning the body weight forward, bring him down and don't give him a chance to move you from this position. The chest, just hook his neck back and drive him back. So it's 1, That's what you got here. This is the kind of drill that you could be doing with a partner in a very relaxed manner to get used to the idea. Pull him back. Other side. Base. Push the elbow here. The hand disarms the elbow. Yes. He could also think about turning at this point. You wouldn't want to leave your legs holding too tight, because if your legs are too tight and when he rolls, it throws you off because your legs are so tight that you lose the position. What you want to do here is as soon as he starts to turn, open your leg a little bit so he will turn, and you just let him turn and he stay underneath you. Other side, the same thing, so that you can always stay on top of him. But the legs should not be trapped underneath him. That's the move right here. So the hand's pushing my chest. I will deflect, turning my body sideways slightly. As I do this, it makes it narrower to go inside of his arm. This move. He puts the hands on my stomach here. I deflect the hand this way so that I can stay on top. He wants to work on my knee. I'll disarm the hand. Same thing if he's using the elbow. I'll pull the elbow away so he can't use it. He sits up, I'll drive his neck back and rest my weight on his chest. I'll just lean the weight, relax forward. If he turns, I'll spread my hands and open my leg so he doesn't sit and roll over my leg. But I can keep the position on top. Stay up, just kind of ride along with him, then deflect the hands. Always thinking about keeping your center of gravity here. If you start pushing him to the side, you might want to hook his neck with one hand and drive the hand inside, just kind of hooking him behind his neck. Push to the other side, the hand goes behind. Then work your way here. Use him for support. Grab onto him, use the center of gravity. My weight is here. My knees do not necessarily have to move all the way up. Always, or stay all the way down either. I want to ride the opponent. I want to kind of adapt to whatever is necessary, as if I'm riding a wave. I want to just, if he pushes that way, I'm going to be relaxed, bring my arms inside. My idea is to be very loose. That's what I want. There's no resistance. I just want to kind of ride along. Disarm the hand. The hands are whatever feels comfortable for you. The idea is to deflect the movement so that he can't use the power against you. There's no resistance. Drive the weight back. Relax the weight. Just kind of take your time. Wait for him. Let him get tired. In a real fight situation, the opponent is going to get so excited and so nervous about being down there that he's going to try to muscle his way out. You should be able to capitalize on that by letting him spend his energy trying to muscle you out, and you just ride along and wait, because he'll lose it to himself. He's going to be so exhausted at that point that he won't have anything left. So if you just can take your time and wait and ride a little bit, he's going to get exhausted, he's going to get very tired, and by that point you should be able to apply some finishing holds that will do good for you. We'll now give you an example and summarize the techniques that we saw on this tape. In this segment, I will show you how to escape from the mounted position. This is the mounted position. I'm mounted on hoist. It happens to be the worst position for a person to be in a fight is down here. And the reason is I'm out of reach from his punches and he's within reach of my punches. So for that reason, it's not good to be able to stay here. We have to find a sensible way to get out of this position. Again, assuming that your opponent is bigger, heavier, and stronger than you, if you simply try to push him out, he's going to brace himself and it's going to be difficult to get him out of here. So this is what you want to do. You want to keep initially both elbows on the ground so that the elbows will limit my knees at this point and I cannot move my body forward than this. So the elbows will hold me at this position. When you keep your elbows here, holding my knees at this position, I will be sitting on your hip. Okay, your hands, one is going to grab like this by the wrist. You want to make sure not to use your thumb at this point. There's no thumb. You want to grab simply like this and glue it on your chest. With the other hand, if I have a jacket, you grab the jacket. If I don't, you can grab the arm right here, either one. So once you have the arm trapped and the arm blocked with this hand, it's impossible for a person to put the hand from this position on the ground. So if I try to move my hand to the ground, I just can't do it anymore. Oh, I can lift you up, but the hand will not go to the ground. Remember, if you just wanted to push the person out, he is going to brace himself with this, and it's going to be virtually impossible to get him out of here. So what you're doing is that you want to trap the arm this way. The hand confirms the arm being held in with this position, and your foot is going to trap my foot, like that, from the outside. Foot traps my leg just like that. Okay? So the arm's strapped, back of the arm here is strapped, and the foot is holding my leg. With all my right side blocked like this, what you want to do is slowly lift your hips straight up. Okay, because I don't have the hand to brace myself, I will fall. Once again, please. The same technique will apply if the person is trying to hold you by the neck like this, strangle your neck. You get his wrist, second hand comes in here, always keeping your elbow inside of my leg. Trap the foot to the same side of the arm trapped, so everything is on the same side, is blocked, so that I can no longer reach out with my hand and prevent myself from falling. And as you lift your hip up, my hand is blocked, and I'm out. Other side will be the same thing. Hold the wrist, block the arm, keeping the elbow in here, lock the foot, and as you lift your hip slowly straight up, I don't have the hand, and I'll lose the balance. If the opponent slides the knees up here under your arm, he puts himself away from your hip. So if you would lift your hip up now, it no longer moves me forward. If I'm sitting back and you lift your hip up, it throws my weight forward. If I'm here and you lift your hip up, I don't lose my balance anymore. So it's important that you keep your elbows here for that reason. As I said, if I am able to sneak up my knees in here and you lose the possibility of lifting me up with your hip, you would then squirm up a little bit this way, regain the position with your elbows inside of my legs. Now trap the arm, both hands, lock my foot on that side, which is the same side of the leg, and then lift your hip up and roll him out. Other side, please, hoist. Hold the arm this way, lock the foot, lift your hip straight up, and I don't have the hand, and I'm out. If the person on top keeps the arm spread out this way, okay, instead of trying to grab you on the neck or hold you by the jacket, if he keeps his hand on the ground like this, you could also reach out over the arm and wrap the arm this way. So now my arm is stuck in here. Hand again holding by the bony part of the arm here by the elbow so that you have a good grip. Lock the foot on that side so that we have good control on that foot. This hand here, you could simply block my arm this way, okay? And then as you lift the hip straight up, my arm again is blocked, and out he goes. The idea is to block one side completely, because if you just try to push the person out, he is going to brace himself instinctively by bracing, spreading the hands on the ground. So if you know that he needs that kind of base, and you can trap one arm, he doesn't know what that means. He's only going to realize what that means after you lift your hip up. Lift your hip up, boys. I can't have the free hand anymore, and I'm out. So if he keeps the hand spread out like this, you can reach out over the arm, trapping my arm. Remember that when you practice this with a partner, be sure to close your fingers at this point, so when he lifts me out, you don't leave your fingers bending backwards. So close your hand like a fist, so as the person on the bottom lifts you up for practice, yes, you don't hurt your hand. Okay. If the person's got the arm across the neck and he's squeezing your neck, the idea is the same, is to trap the arm, control the elbow here, behind the elbow, lock the foot on the same side, always the same side, the arm and the leg on the same side, to make sure that I cannot step out or brace myself with the foot or the hand on that side. So as Hoist lifts the hip straight up, here my arm is blocked, and I'm going. Other side please, trap the arm, lock the foot on that side, there you go, it's always the same side, and then lift the hip straight up, my arm is blocked, and it's gone. When you roll the person out, the idea is not just, fica deitado você, huh? The idea, lock your foot please. The idea is not, stay down please, lift your hip up. You don't want to just throw him out and stay here, because from this position, he could come back up again. The plan is when you trap the arm, is that you lift your hip up and you keep going with him. In other words, your body will drive him all the way out. Move up a little bit. The idea here is that you lift your hip up and then you drive him out. That's what you want. Trap the arm, lift your hip up, lock the foot on the same side, lift your hip up, and instead of just throw him out with a bouncing movement of the hip, you want to lift your hip up and roll out so that you land on your knees afterwards. That's the plan. So if I'm grabbing his neck, he'll confirm the movement, trap the arm, hold the wrist, lift the hip up, and he goes with me. Right, to ensure that he lands on his knees afterwards. If the person on top has the arm wrapped around your neck like this, the hand will come around, trap my arm, with your head back so that I can't push my arm out, pull my arm out of this. So the head helps to trap my arm along with the hand. The hand on this side here will wedge my hip, so they have extra support with that hand. The foot on that leg traps my foot on that side, and as he lifts the hip up, I'm stuck the same way, I'm out. Right, okay. He's got your neck here, you confirm his grip. Make sure to use your head back so my arm doesn't get out of here, doesn't come out from underneath your head. Wedge the hip with the hand like this on the hip bone, lock the foot on that side, and lift your hip up. Yes, and out it goes to this kind of movement. It's got holding tight, it doesn't matter. Trap the wrist, lock the arm. The movement should not be with the hip throwing me to the side. You don't want to roll the guy that way. That's not what you want. Make sure that when you trap my arm, like this, and lock my foot, lift your hip straight forward. That's the move you want. Then he rolls out. Okay. You have the leverage when you lift your hip straight forward. You don't want to roll him to the side. Once again, please. Confirm this. Lock the arm so that my knee won't move up. Lock the foot on the same side. And as you lift your hip up, impossible to stop. Right. Make sure that you always end up on your knees afterwards. The person is holding you by the wrist. You could confirm his grip. Even if you can't use this hand holding my arm, it's all right, because I'm almost committing to the move as I grab your wrist. If the guy is so much stronger, so much more powerful that you can't move a finger at this point, take advantage of the fact that he's holding your wrist, lock the foot, because if I don't put my hand on the ground, I'm going to lose my balance. So even if I would hold your hands like this, lift your hips straight up, the fact that I don't use my hands throws me off balance. Again, please. If you can confirm this so that you don't be at my mercy in letting go of the hand, so you don't leave it up to my decision to let go of your wrist and brace myself, it would be even better if you can make sure of this. So now if I decide to let go of your wrist and brace myself, I can't because my arm is trapped. So from this position, we lock the foot again, trap the wrist, confirming my grip. As you lift your hips straight up, my hand is trapped, and I'm going. If the person were to grab your arms or something like this, here we go again. Second hand goes under. So always the idea is to trap one side. If you can prevent my hand from spreading the base and saving myself from falling, I'm out of here. So the trick is to hold the arm, keep the elbow closed so my arm can't get out. Now lock the foot, and as you lift your hips straight up, I don't have a hand anymore. That's what gets him out. Remember, only lock the foot on the same side. On the same side of the hand. So if you're trapping this arm and locking this foot, you don't want to have this foot locked also. Because if you lift your hip now, that back leg of mine could hook onto the leg. So if you're here and you have the arm trapped and the leg trapped and you lift your hip straight up, my other leg could save my balance, could prevent me from falling. So you want to make sure to not not trap the foot on one side. So you hold here, lift your hip straight up. I don't have the arm, and I'm going. Okay. So the person's trying to strangle or bracing himself. If my hands are kind of far away, you could reach for that and bring my hand towards you here, trapping the arm, and lift your hip up. Yes. Okay. If he's so strong that you can't bring his hand in, you move towards his hand. It works too. Trap the arm this way, lock the foot, lift your hip straight up, and he's out. Other side. Once you grab the arm, he can't get the hand out. Lock one foot only, lift your hips straight up. Yes. Always end up on your knees. Squeeze your neck. Trap the arm. Lift your hips slowly straight up, and he's out. As you practice these techniques with your friend, you will see that soon enough, as soon as you start feeling comfortable with the escape, your friend is going to start making things more difficult for you. Go ahead, hoist. With this kind of thing. He now is going to start getting smarter. So as you do that, he might try to untangle the foot to brace himself from falling that way. Which is going to take us to the next way out, which is the elbow escape. Okay, lock the foot, please. All right. So if I'm here, and the person now makes a point of untangling the foot, when hoist traps my foot, if I start doing this number, so he can't catch my leg. Okay, we're gonna do the elbow escape, which is when your elbow goes under my leg, from here, bring your knee underneath my leg, hook my leg with your foot, put both hands on this knee, slide your hip away, and bring the legs around to put me in the guard. Once again, please. That's not. If the person is here, he's got the legs spread out so that you can't catch his foot, he's doing one of these, you can put your elbow here, or you can help with the hand. Usually it's called, the elbow is the first thing to start, so we call it the elbow escape because his elbow is already in this position. So the elbow brace is here, right? Then you put your hand on the knee like this, move your head back so that you can put your hand on my knee like this, and slide your hip back so that the bottom leg comes under, hook my leg, hands on the other knee, scoot your hip away, and bring the leg out, crossing the legs behind my back on the end. Once again. So the elbow escape is like an emergency exit. It's an extremely effective way to get out from this position, and it's almost impossible to prevent that from happening. Okay, from this position here, if I'm preventing Royce from trapping my arm, keeping my base very spread out, he can go for the elbow escape by putting the elbow and then the hand. Turns his body sideways. Instead of pushing my knee with his hands, the hip is what moves back. My knees stayed on the same position. His body is what's going to slide away. Then he puts the hand on the knee, bring the bottom leg out, catches my foot, slides the hip back the other way to bring the knee under, to then cross the legs behind my back. Okay. I want to show a drill here that's going to make it easier. The idea is from this position here, laying down, you want to keep your foot planted on the ground and your shoulder on the ground so that you can swivel your hip under. That's the move. So that when you go for the elbow escape, you put your elbow on the person's knee and the hand, use your foot on the ground and this leg flat on the ground so that you can slide your hip away. Bring your knee inside his leg, hook it, hand on the other knee, plant this foot on the ground and slide your hip away. Bring the leg out and cross your legs on the end. Once again, so from here, the elbows are on the ground next to the person's knees. It's one, like this, one, get the leg out. Two, get the leg out. What makes it easy to move my hip is that I have my weight, my hip off the ground. My hip is off the ground. I'm putting the weight on the foot and my hip swivels underneath. So it goes under and out, and under and out. That's the move. So that's a very good drill from laying down position like this, elbow on the ground and scoot your hip away. Elbow on the ground, scoot your hip away, and eventually cross your legs. Please. So if the person is here, for the elbow escape, if I have my base spread out, you use your elbow, bring the leg out and hook my leg. Stop for a sec. If you don't hook the leg, the person on top will have a chance to mount again. So you want to make sure that you trap my leg so that I'm stuck with this. I can't get my leg out. Hand on the knee, back up the hip. Second leg comes under. And always cross your legs on the end of the move. Once again, let's back up. So if I'm here, move me, wedge your elbow on the knee. Slide your hip away, get the leg out and trap my foot. The hip is what moves. You don't want to push the person's knee away. Instead of pushing a heavy person's knee away from you, let the knee be there and just slide your body away from him. One more time, please. If I'm in this position, that's the move. I'm staying, my knees will stay planted on the ground. His body is what moves away. Okay. So if the person is here, that's the move. Elbow on the knee, sideways, get the leg out, hook my leg, get the leg out, and then always cross your feet on the end. Make sure that you cross your legs to force the person in my position here to get locked inside of your legs. Okay, we'll now do a recap on the sequence that we've seen. Okay, if the person is going to have you by the neck, trap the arm, keep your elbow in, locking the foot, and lift your hip straight up. Okay. Other side, trap the arm, lock the foot, the hip goes straight up, and here. Okay. As you can see, in this way to escape, when Royce traps my arm like this and locks the foot, he is on the bottom position right now, and as he locks the foot and lifts the hip straight up, he is now on top. Okay. And then we talked about the other way to escape, which is the elbow escape, in which he wedges the elbow on my knee. Instead of pushing my knee, he moves his body away, brings the leg out, traps my foot, hand on this knee, bring the leg out, and then cross the leg. The fact that I end up on top of him, apparently on top of him, does not necessarily mean that I'm in an advantageous position. The fact that I'm inside of his legs, it's a very good, advantageous, and classic defensive position for Royce at this point. So don't think that just because I'm on top means that I'm winning the fight. That's not necessarily it. Okay, let's go back to this again, please. So here I am on top because I'm sitting on his chest. Here I am inside of his leg. It's a whole different ballgame. Okay, once again. So from this position here, he wants to trap the arm, lock the foot. I can't get my arm out. As he lifts the hip straight up, he gets up. Okay. If I have my hand under his neck, he confirms the grip with that hand. The head goes back so I can't get my arm out. Wedge the hand on the hip, locks the foot on that side because it's the same side of the arm that is strapped. And as he lifts the hip straight up, I'm out. If I spread my hands like this, he then can put the hand on my knee. He can use the hand with the arm straight like this, or if my knees are too high, he puts the elbow because it's a better wedge. Elbow with that arm and the hand on this knee. Turn the body sideways. Right. Hand on the knee, get the leg out, lock the foot, scoot the hip away, and cross the legs. Let me remind you that the person that knows Gracie Jiu Jitsu is always with the advantage. So as you probably noticed at this point, when Royce traps my arm here and locks my foot to lift me up, he now is on top of me here and can take advantage of this position. When Royce does the elbow escape and gets out like that, I am now inside of his legs or on his guard. And if I don't know what to do, it's bad news for me. So because he knows the techniques of Gracie Jiu Jitsu, even though he's on the bottom, he still can capitalize on that. So the fact that he's on the bottom doesn't necessarily mean he's losing, or the fact that he's with the legs in this position, because he knows what he wants, he still can get me out and be on top and capitalize from this position also. Okay. Let me also include in this sequence that when he's doing, he traps the arm, locks the foot. If I step out, he can change from one movement to the other. He hooks my leg. If as he's trying to do the elbow escape, sliding the hip away, I put my weight on top of him, he can now go ahead, roll the guy over to the other side and end up on top of him here. So he starts by trapping my arm, lifting the hip up. I block the move. He defends that. As he scoots the hip away to put me on the other, I catch him here, He now rolls the person to the other side. And he's on top of me here. Other side. 1, 2. Get over here. And he's on top. Remember that the technique should be repeated at this speed, very relaxed, effortlessly. And that's one way out. I spread my base, he does the elbow escape, bring the leg under, traps my foot, cross the leg, yes, okay. Right here. Locks the foot, I step out, traps my leg. If I put the weight on top of him, he can just feel the weight going, and over we go. Mount the leg, yes. Okay. Change it from one escape to the other escape. Hand on the knee and cross the legs. His arm. If you can, flip him out so that you can go on top of him. If there's a chance, you always want to do this escape first. Okay. Only if the opponent resists or prevents you from doing that, then you change the move. Put your hand on the knee and put him inside of your legs. You are no longer with him on that worst position, with the mounted position. You're already out of that. We have him inside of your legs now. It's better to have him here than have him here on top of you. So for the person on the bottom, you prefer to have him inside of your legs, okay? If you're gonna be on the bottom, you wanna have him inside of your legs. If you can, trap the arm, lift him up, and get him out completely, even better. Okay. So if the person is here and grabs your neck and you trap the arm, and he now does this, he changes. As I hold on to his neck, he feels the weight. Changes to this. If he decides to grab onto you doing this kind of thing like this, you want to untangle your foot, take advantage of this hook that I have, hold my arm, wedge my hip, and then lift your hip up, because if this leg is free, I lose control in the position. If I spread my legs very much, you might also want to do the elbow escape by using that hand on my knee, untangling your leg, escape from underneath, hook my leg, put him on your guard by bringing this leg under, and now you're out. Same thing, please. Do this, bring your leg under. If I resist and hold on tight, take advantage of his weight. Lift the hip up, right, leg goes in, locks the foot. If when you're doing this, he does to escape with the arm. And as he tries to put me inside of his leg, I hold on to him. Go ahead, move your hip away more. And I'm too heavy, he can always go to my back to end up on top anyways. So if I'm here or squeezing his neck, he locks my arm, traps my foot, lifts the hip, I step out, he does this move, moves the hip away. If I stay real low to the ground where he cannot flip me over because I'm too heavy, he just climbs over my back and ends up on top of me here. Your goal in a fight is to end up in this position. As we talked about, I'm out of reach of his punches, and I can reach it with my punch. Plus gravity is on my side. I have much more power hitting him going down than he would have trying to reach up at me. But not only for the hits, because there's more techniques to do in a fight than just trying to punch somebody. It's a much safer position to be in. So if you're on the bottom, you want to walk, through these techniques, you want to rehearse these techniques enough times at this speed that we're doing so that you can be very comfortable with the movements. Remember to feel for the balance. Repeat the techniques and they will become reflexive action.